Welcome all to Alchemy Within from Out Amongst the Stars. And today I have my guest with me again. This is,
Hello.
hi, this is my daughter Shelby. She's here to talk some more about her chart. We had her on previously when we had a Chiron North Node conjunction to talk about her perspective because she has that Chiron in her first house and it's very present in her life. And today we're going to continue on and talk a lot about the first house. And I'm wanting to do this series on there to talk about all the significations of the different houses. So, and in special with that, I have in below, if you look and you click on the bit.ly link, you can send me your chart and I will give you a review of your first house. And you could also join a monthly group for $8. So if you just click on the bit.ly link or you email me, we can look at your first house and we'll work our way through the houses. So Shelbs, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me,
So
as
as
per
you,
usual.
yeah. So as you see, Shelby has a really packed first house. And just to get started, we'll talk about the significations of the first house. And everyone, of course, is really familiar with using a sun sign. And the sun sign is really important because it's an indicator of, um, what brings you energy and your vital force energy out in the world. And it helps you fulfill your purpose. So it often has lots to do with how you present yourself and use your energy out in the world. However, when you're looking at horoscopes and listening to all the YouTubers, they use the whole sign houses, as you'll see in this chart, and it is based off the rising sign because they put the rising sign in the first house and then talk about where the planets are in correlation with that. And so that rising sign is extremely important. And of course, when you look at uh, what the rising sign might indicate, it has a lot to do with your appearance. It's also known as the ascendant, if you have heard that as well. And it was what was on the what rising on the eastern horizon at the moment of your birth. So it has a ton to do with your life purpose and path and what your kind of soul is calling you to. It also was a really good indication of how these how the physical manifestation of these things can happen. It's sort of that role that you play in life. It's how others had perceived you in that early childhood a lot of times. And it's how you perceive the world and your appearance out in the world. And it has a lot to do with your physicality as well as your body and what you feel in your body or how things, how your body looks, like your body type, even at times. And it really has a huge signification in conjunction with your sun sign and your moon sign together. So as you can see here, Shelbs has her moon in her first house, as well as uh, Pluto conjunct it and the Chiron, as we talked about before. And so in Sagittarius, that moon has, that's the emotional body. And it has a real signification in the first house because the first house often is your dharma. It's who you are. It's your I am energy and that things to do with your health of your body. And often in early childhood has a lot to do with how you behave and how you were seen. So I would say when Shelby was young, really presented in a really joyful, kind of out there, if she was comfortable Sagittarius way. Would you agree, Shelps?
I guess so. I remember being really, really quiet as a child, but when we talk about my child self, that's definitely like just a jovial, like happy-go-lucky, just go along to get along kind of mentality. Like that's you talk about that about me giving that a lot. And when I look back at pictures too, like there was definitely some saggy jovial energy, like just yeah. Like yeah, I was like, well, maybe that's more Leo North Node, but like just always wanting to like dance and be out there um and just kind of smiling all the time.
Yeah, that's, I mean, that's how you appeared. I know that isn't how you were all the time and out. You were quite shy. But when you were feeling most comfortable, you were just in general, yeah, quite a jovial, um, kind of silly. You like to laugh out loud and, all that kind of thing. So I would
Hmm.
say that the other parts of you didn't express until you started into adolescent and then into adulthood. There's been all kinds of, different parts that have revealed themselves that, were not as obvious as they were
Hmm.
later and yeah, earlier in life. So, and that first house is just such an essence, and sometimes people say it's what you're rising into. So I don't know if you feel that, because the Sagittarius energy
Hmm.
is that seeker, right? It's the one that is always looking for truth. It's like looking for that, bigger, higher meaning in life. And, with it being in the first house, like, does that have to do with your sense of self or self-image and, all of your outlook on life and your attitude and, those first impressions that you give people, right? And
Hmm.
so it has a lot to do with um, your health as well, and all the, I guess, major life themes that are going on could have a lot to do with a seeker of higher meaning. And also it's also that fire, and with the moon there, I'm wondering how you feel um, in your body when things are coming through to you.
Yeah, that's a lot to unpack. Something that popped up while you were talking there is the seeker, and I'm wondering if you have a tally sheet for how many times I asked a question that you answered with, I don't know, Google it.
Right, always wanting to know more. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Like how many people are in the country of so and so or something like, little like weird things like that or really, really specific questions about things that are just not in most people's everyday lexicon. Um,
Right.
hmm yeah. I feel like as an adult, like I am a seeker a little bit more, but more so with myself. I feel like yeah, maybe as a kid, like if there was a way that I could describe that energy, I was always seeking outward and with astrology and also just where I was going before I was really introduced to astrology, because I had to, because you just kind of get to a point where you have to start investigating yourself for different things. I would say that the seeker energy, it really got turned inward, for myself.
Oh, yeah. And I'm wondering if that has to do with the fact that you have that Pluto there, right? So then you just
Hmm.
want to go deep into
Yeah.
things.
Yeah,
So
I
that,
think so.
oh, sorry, the Sagittarius can be uh I guess just really looking for a bigger picture and looking for something, adventure and that sort of thing. And I don't know if you felt like you, because you have the Taurus sun, I don't know if you felt like you had that adventurous spirit.
Oh yeah, I definitely at 18 years old was like, I just want to live in different countries and cities for like 3 to 6 months at a time, and then I want to go find a new one. The Taurus keeps me pretty grounded though. Like there are some people that are doing that. And at this stage of my life, I don't think I would, but at 18, 19 more so maybe that like I was like, if I could just do this it would solve all my problems, which it wouldn't, but it would have been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, I guess in some ways, I'm just going to carry on here, and we're going to talk. Well, give some significations of the Sagittarius moon first of all. So the Sag moon uh, comes through with typically a lot of enthusiasm. It's bold, resilient, a lot of honesty, and like I said, it's also seeking the new truths all the time. It's a fire sign, so it can be very fiery, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But there's a lot of different things that with your mood and your overall internal emotional body, and the dialogue that comes through can be get fired up and really excited about things. And so the moon in Sag can see this and feel that there's a lot of options out there, and always wants to do something that brings in some sort of deep spiritual study, or it kind of does need to move the body, and also have a lot of physicality, and the intuition needs to come through too with fire. So like whether it is you're by a fire or in the sun or the heat or the sauna or infrared, or some sort of by a candle, or and also when it does come through, typically is felt very viscerally, like in the body, and sometimes in the hips or the gut, or their energy just feels really expansive. And however, what's interesting is that even though they're big and bold and out there and can be laughing and jovial and sometimes inappropriate, and you know party too much and have a little wild side or adventurous side, there is there's this part of them then that needs to then retreat and then find that quiet space at home and recharge all of that energy they had burnt up. And so it's nice because that is a really optimistic moon, and likes that exploration, and has a good sense of values and wisdom, and likes to get out and do things, and do that sort of thing. The challenging part can be that it can feel really restless, or sometimes say things, the foot and mouth disease kind of thing. And it also really likes freedom, and it's always looking for that growth opportunity, and also needs kind of that place of balance for the emotional connection, but has to have that independence in there with relations. So do you have anything that you want to add to that you resonate with as a Sag moon? It's different because you have the moon Pluto conjunct, but
yeah. Yeah, no, I think that there's a lot of pieces in that. It's really interesting. Like since you've introduced me to astrology in a more in-depth way, we've been able to figure out like, hey, this is like high road moon Sag. Hey, this is low road moon Sag. So yeah, and I think the Pluto kind of intensifies it, but I can definitely get a little bit of explosive with emotions sometimes. But something, that we haven't talked about a whole lot with the fire and bringing in that like some sort of fire or infrared or heat to help release emotions. Something that I've picked up within the last week, we would do it all the time for work, and I kind of decided, I think I need this as part of a daily practice, which is smudging in the morning and the evening, because I work at an indigenous nation. And yeah, it's just something that we would do in my workspace sometimes. And I've noticed that it really, really helps. So I've started to do that and say a prayer in the mornings and evenings. And that's been really lovely lately, and very helpful. Um, yeah. No, and I think you've hit pretty well everything right on the nail.
Yeah, I believe that when you have intuition come through, you had mentioned your hips. Is that where you feel
It's
it
like
being
more like
involved?
the base of my stomach. Like it's like in my sacrum. It's like in it like it's still in my belly. It's not in like my hips. It's in like my belly. It's like where your sacral chakra is, kind of. That's how it feels. Like you can feel it right
Oh,
there.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's talk a little bit before we wrap up here. We only have a few minutes left. Um, what happens when we have the moon transiting Sagittarius that we notice, especially for you in the first house? So as we know, the moon moves through each sign every 2.5 days. And and I have a Sag moon as well. Mine's in the 11th house of, connections and friends and allies and networks and hopes, wishes, and dreams. But yours being in the first house, when that Sag moon comes in, all of a sudden it hits that. First of all, it hits the Chiron ascendant conjunct, and then it hits the moon and the Pluto. So your emotions get extremely fiery, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really, really fun time. We were actually originally going to record when the moon was in Sag. And then we had to not because I have to be really, really careful about not picking fights or I'll get very dramatic and the world is ending. And all I can think of right now is, I'm saying all that crazy, guys, but no, like I just have to really watch myself. Like I can either get kind of stressy, depressy, as I would say, or I'll usually move into that and then I'll get like very fiery and yeah, and I'll just start picking fights and then I'll turn into like, but I'm just like a sensitive little teddy bear. Can I have a hug? Like it's like volatile,
Yeah,
like it's and swinging from
yeah.
different things. It hits everything.
You hit
And
your
even
wounds and your
yeah.
wounded self, and you're in the, like you say, stressy, depressy, like I'm the poor wounded child. And then wants to go deep into the underground of Pluto.
Hmm.
And I would like to actually do Pluto through the various houses as well, because we're just entered Pluto in Aquarius, which is different than Pluto in Capricorn. It would be
Hmm.
good to do a little series on that, and hopefully I can do that as well. But yeah, and then it wants to dive deep into every emotional pain that it has experienced. And when you look for emotional stability, it comes out in wanting to, or looking for attention. It comes out in
Hmm.
how?
Usually I pick an argument about something that may or may not need to have an argument.
Yeah,
To be fair, you also have Moon in Sagittarius, and
yeah,
like I think that plays an effect
sure it
because
does.
you're the only one I fight with that that
But what's
much.
interesting is you also have Mercury, you have a fire mind with Jupiter expanding on that fire in
Yeah,
this trine over here to that moon Pluto.
yeah,
So that makes it even more, that, even though
yeah,
that's a nice energy, a trine. It's not like it's
yeah.
a square. It's still, there's a lot of fire.
A lot of fire. I would say that as I've gotten older, like I'm slowly learning, I'm still trying to integrate more things. I need to, Sagittarius can be related to horses. I need to spend time with the horses. Um, and you need to move your body. And I will say that as a kid, I was very, very, very shut down. Like if you had looked at my chart and gone, oh, does she do this? Oh, does she do that? I think your answer would be like, no, not as much. Like it would have been that like jovial, Sag self, or it would have been like the sloth melting down Taurus. I think that's what you would have probably picked up on a lot more. But yeah,
Yeah. And
it's
when
nice.
when the fire started to come through in the 0 to 60, I was like, what the heck's going on here?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
But
I mean, there's another whole thing with the moon Pluto, and we'll have to talk about that in another time because we're, running short here. But I just
where
wanted
can
to
people find you, Mom?
come and chat with me a little.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank
at
you.
below, you can just email me, Alchemy Within from Out Amongst the Stars, and you can connect with me there. All the information is below, and we can look at your house as your first house to start with to learn a little bit more about your own self identity and that rising sign and what's kind of coming through your soul and your appearance and how you express out in the world in conjunction with the sun.